for those who are joining us for the first time tonight in this lab, we actually see this lab as a well that we come to drink from at the end of, you know, an intensive and hectic day. At least that's how I feel about this lab. It's a lab where we look at creating change in the world, but from the inside out. So it's about how do we find peace within ourselves and be able to create peace in our interpersonal relationships and in the system. And that's the approach that we've taken. We usually start with Alyssa taking us through a grounding and centering exercise, and let's start there today. Yep.
Awesome. Summit Day 5. Guys, this has been, you know, an amazing, amazing time, you know, wild ride. So let's come again to our seat. We have so much support and so much to be absolutely grateful for. So just come to your seat, feel yourself supported, and start to notice what your breath is doing. If you like and you feel more comfortable and you want to turn your video off, you can go and do that now. And really give yourself the opportunity, give yourself the gift of connecting with your breath for the next minute or so. Feel the rise and fall of the front of your body as your breath enters and leaves. The body doesn't hold on to the breath. It allows the breath in and it lets it go. Over and over and over. Moment by moment. Like the waves coming in on the shore. In a process of absolute devotion. And you can take a hand or take both hands and just put your hands on your heart and feel what it feels like to be breathing and to have your heart beating. We've had so many times this year, especially, that it feels like we're not in control. And sometimes all we can do is notice our breath, feel our heartbeat, and realize how resourced we are in the moment. From moment to moment, from heartbeat to heartbeat, breath to breath. In this moment right now, we have everything that we need. In this moment right now, we're safe. In this moment right now, we're here together and about to interact with each other and co-create something amazing. Take a couple more deep breaths here. Notice again what your body is doing. Allow yourself to release a little more if you're able, anywhere that you're holding tightly. And after a couple more breaths, come back to the room and let's begin to work together.
Yes. So just really briefly before we jump into today, I just want to say that this lab is hosted by the Future Law Institute in partnership with the USOLV School of Empathic Leadership and Entrepreneurship. And so I sit here today wearing two hats. One being in the USOLV School of Empathic Leadership and Entrepreneurship, and one being here in the Future Law Institute. And this lab is where the two converge. This lab is where the two converge. And over the last 5 days, what we have been doing is exploring various pathways to peace. And this would include peace when we're talking about resolving conflict, transforming conflict, being creative with conflict. It's about healing trauma, whether personal or collective, and or intergenerational, and general approaches for building peace in society. And on day 1, just for those plugging in today for the first time, day 1, we looked at spiritual grounding and spiritual approaches to building peace. On day 2, we looked at nonviolent communication and its approach to dealing with systemic oppression and building empathy in those situations. And on day 3, we looked at restorative justice practices all around the issues of equity and justice as fairness, fairness in process. And yesterday, we looked at a fascinating emerging field brought in from the medical field, trauma-informed law and practice. And we saw this as giving us a deeper awareness of trauma that is unresolved and held within the body, and how to respond to those kinds of things. Today, we are introducing you to radical empathy, which is a new system thinking framework that is being developed by USolve to help us to find truth in connection with the other. So I'll turn it over to Adam now. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Margaret. And really nice to see new faces, Roz and Debbie, and also Lipsa returning, and Lakita as well, and Amanda. So one of the things we've been looking at as a group is racial archetypes, led by the expertise of Delia and Alyssa. And we've been identifying the different types of personalities involved in racial conflict. And just to give you a definition of archetype, I'm not so sure, it's a collectively inherited unconscious idea, pattern of thought, image, etc. And this comes from Jungian philosophy. So an extreme example would be a white supremacist, but we wanted to look at the archetypes that more subtly inflict racial violence, perhaps, often with the best intentions, and see if we could use a focused approach to empathy to try and understand some of the motivations and challenges that these people face. And by the way, that is not the same as excusing them or justifying them. So I was tasked with putting together a short role play for a scenario that incorporated some of those archetypes. And we as a team have voiced that role play, and we're going to listen to that shortly. And so I'm going to ask you to pay close attention to the individual characters and be aware of your thoughts and feelings towards them. And there are 3 scenes, and in between each scene, we'll come back together as a group and we'll discuss specific questions about our reactions. So in the private chat, I'm going to put the script there. So if everybody who's able to, might be a bit difficult for you, Amanda, on the phone, but if everybody who's able to can click on that link, you'll be taken through to the script. And firstly, at the top, you'll see character profiles. Let me know if anybody's having trouble getting to that document. Okay, so you can see profiles of all the characters. I'm not going to read them all out now because that will take too long. But the lead character, the central character of the role play is Mary, the one at the top. So I'll just read hers out and you can follow along if you like with the document. So Mary is a Black college graduate in graphic design and has long been trying to forge a career in that field as a freelancer. She recently decided to take a sales job to meet her extortionate loan repayments. She's an honest person and hardened against bullshit, but also aware she needs a secure and steady job. So that gives you a little bit of context about her as we head into the video that I'm about to play now. So I shall share screen. And again, just pay attention to your thoughts and feelings to each character in this first scene.
The Blueberry Muffin, a screenplay by Adam Bates. It's 1:22 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon at Brighter Homes, an established company that sells household products. Mary has just completed her second month of a 3-month probation period on the telesales team and only reached 65% of her latest weekly sales target. After another morning of frustration on the phone, she heads to the small, bustling wood canteen and places on her tray an egg and cress sandwich, a packet of barbecue-flavored crisps, and the blueberry muffin.
Oh, hey, Mary, right? Yeah, so that last muffin is mine, actually. Sorry.
Haley reaches for the muffin off Mary's tray. Mary moves her tray away from Haley.
I didn't see your name on it, sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to take it a minute ago, but I needed to quickly visit the bathroom and I'm back right now.
No, sorry, that's just not how it works.
Look, I'm not letting you go anywhere until you give me my muffin back.
It's not your muffin. Please, will you stop blocking my way to the till?
I'm not blocking your way.
You're literally standing right in my way.
No, I'm not. Why are you stealing my things? I will report this if I have to.
I'm not stealing anything. You're being ridiculous.
Look, you're new and struggling. Meanwhile, as I'm sure you're aware, I have made more sales 4 months running. I'd even be willing to let you learn from me. Or you could choose to make your life very difficult. Just give me my...
Haley reaches forcefully again for the muffin. Mary turns away from her, leading Haley to stumble in an undignified way. She turns around and makes sure the whole room pays attention.
Do you see that? Layla, she just attacked me.
Attacked you?
Oh my gosh, my wrist. I think it might be fractured.
You have got to be kidding me.
Oh, it's okay. I've got a chocolate chip muffin if you could have.
You're out of control, Mary. I'm reporting you to Marian.
Haley storms off.
What the fuck was that?
We pause as we enter a new scene.
So we do. Okay, everybody. There was the first scene. I hope you were able to hear it okay, and if not, I should have said, you've got the script there so you can read along with it. So feel free to turn on your cameras if you're comfortable to do so. So we'd like to get your reaction to the different characters in that situation there. So we had Mary in the canteen picking up a blueberry muffin, and then she was confronted by Haley, who said, no, that was my muffin, give it back. And then the confrontation ensued. So we've got a few questions that we'd like to ask you, and this is an open discussion now. Have you ever witnessed or been part of a situation like this, first of all? Is that situation familiar to anybody? Nobody at all? Okay. Is the situation familiar to anyone? That's the right question. So nobody's had an incident before where there was perhaps a bit of miscommunication and it got all out of control, it was blown out of proportion. What about
Yes, I have, in terms of miscommunication, that is. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I have a good few times due to cultural differences, due to difference in the way we were nurtured. Sometimes we miscommunicate, and that is why it's good to really make sure that person understands what you said, understood what you said, and to make sure that you are explaining the best way possible. But I mean, from my experience, just continue learning about that person, help me better able to communicate, as well as reading about communication. You know, practice it at home in front of the mirror. So yeah, that is what I've tried to do. Try to listen, not listen to just reply, not to be in a hurry, but take my time and truly understand or even put myself in their shoes, basically.
Okay. Now that last thing you said there, that's something we'll be coming to. Is there a particular example that sticks out in your mind that you're happy to share? And it's absolutely fine if not. Okay, so what I'd like to ask as well to everybody is, what do we think the issues are at play here in this scenario? So these two people have come together and seemingly it's a dispute over a muffin. Now, what else might be at play here? What do people think?
It would seem that there is this issue of entitlement and privilege in a sense of framing an injustice based on race, probably. That in itself is familiar, I wanted to say. I couldn't think of it in terms of a personal situation, but I'm aware of those issues very much.
Mm. And Lipsa, would you like to share the comment you've just made there? Or would you just like me to read it out? That's okay too.
Yeah, you could read it out.
Okay, so Lipsa's put, Mary's feeling, and in quotation mark, yet it's happening again, as if this is a familiar thing. So perhaps what you're alluding to there as well, Ros, that, not again. Lipsa, I wonder what you mean by the again. If you just want to let us know.
I think the muffin here is probably that metaphor that everything probably that Mary has been through has been to ask outright that this is mine, has been to defend that this is my space, and then kind of doing it in multiple circles, and even for something as simple as a muffin at the canteen. So it's that constant feeling of fighting for your space, probably.
Wow, that's really deep insight. Thank you, Lipsa. Okay, and then I think we'll leave that last question till later. Okay, let's go into the second scene. So again, because some of the sound gets a bit quiet, if you want to follow along with the script on that link that's in the chat, I think I might need to paste it again for one or two people who might have arrived a little bit later. So the link there in the private chat is to the script, so you can follow along as well if you like. So let me share the screen again.
Mary and Layla are sat on the other side of Marian's desk in her office. Marian wears a look as if to say she's trying really hard to be neutral and understanding.
I'd like to hear your side of the story. Hayley was in such distress. I've had to give her the afternoon off. It must have been pretty serious to make Hayley leave work early. She's an exemplary saleswoman.
All I did was take my food in the canteen. She said I'd stolen her muffin. I hadn't. She tried to snatch it off me. She stumbled and then caused a massive scene. That's literally it. It was all so childish.
Layla, you were with Mary.
Behind her and Hayley.
So you saw everything, I take it.
I guess.
Did it look to you like it was Haley's muffin?
I mean, also,
Mary shoots Layla a sideways glance.
And did Mary attack her?
I mean, I don't really remember.
It was only 30 minutes ago. Did you see physical contact?
Did?
Would you say Mary pushed or shoved Haley?
I'm not sure, I guess.
What? Why are you saying that? You know I didn't push anybody. She reached over me and I turned away from her.
Please, Mary, there is no need to get angry.
I'm not getting angry.
Mary shoots Layla a sideways glance. Marian smiles at Mary condescendingly.
Look, I like you, Mary. You're fiery and we need that energy in the team. But this is a really chilled office atmosphere and I want to keep it that way. We don't do aggression here. I will let you off with a warning just on this occasion, on the condition that you attend the weekly mindfulness workshop starting tomorrow.
This isn't right at all, and respectfully, I'm compelled to tell you, I feel like I'm being unjustly portrayed as some angry Black woman who's...
Well, no way, I'm not having that. For a start, we don't see colour here. I promise you, we've always treated everyone equally. We don't think about anyone's skin colour here. You've never had any problems, have you, Layla?
No.
Turning to Mary with an expression as if to say, that settles it.
Okay, I've got a meeting now, so I'll let you go back to the phones. And I'll see you in the Zen room tomorrow at 8:30, Mary.
We pause as we enter a new scene with...
There we are. So, what we've seen there, or heard, is that Mary and Lila have had to go to the line manager's office, and Mary's been invited to give her side of the story. And despite her contending her innocence, she's effectively been punished. So in this instance, what do people feel are the issues at play here? Lakita, is that a hand? No, oh, sorry, I thought I saw a hand in the corner of the screen, like, hello. So what do we think's going on here, Roz? No need to put your hand up, you can just jump in.
I didn't want to. So the colour blindness, this idea that we don't see colour, it's making the invisibility worse, the sense of there's no acknowledgement that there's any injustice going on the basis of race.
I think that's quite clear, thanks, Roz. Anything else that springs to mind for anybody?
I think it's just this description of anger. A lot of times we label people's complex emotions as anger because we don't want to analyze or deal with that complexity. And in that, we're kind of discounting exactly what or how they feel by calling it out as anger and therefore unacceptable. I think it's just around that expression.
And go on, Debbie.
I think too, not being experiencing that person's, life, we can sometimes think, okay, we understand that person because we've not truly been in that person's shoe. We think we come to certain assumptions based on what we just know alone. That is why it's good to be engaged in conversations and expect the unexpected. Know that you won't know everything and You have not experienced that person's life. You don't know the pain that they're going through. So it's really, I guess, humbling yourself and not getting easily offended as well, because sometimes people get easily offended when you talk to them about a particular issue. They think, oh, you're just angry. Instead, just listen and get what you're saying and understand what you've experienced. So just talking from experience. Yeah.
Oh, really? So is this something that you felt before in real life?
Something similar. It was just awkward and not knowing how to properly deal with the situation without coming across as rude.
So have you been on Mary's side of the equation then?
No, the other side.
Or you've been on Marion's side of the equation?
This not. Let me see. Let me look at the. I can't remember their names. The side where I've been called angry and being too difficult. Yeah.
And what about you, Soul Team? When you read the script, first off, what kind of things came to your mind? You thought, team, are you awake?
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's, you know, I think there's both a frustration and a tiredness sometimes that you come to for having to explain yourself again and again and again. You know, when you one of the things we were talking about, I think yesterday we talked about, you know, sometimes you just get to the point where you think it's not fair. It's just not fair. So yeah, that is what I was thinking when I look from Mary's side. And sometimes, you know, from another person, sometimes you just really don't know. No, actually, that was the day before. You know, from when Muna was talking about sometimes a lawyer you get faced with something and you feel really uncomfortable. So you want to really end it as soon as possible. So yeah, it's complicated. It feels like a lot.
Yeah, it does. We've had a nice long comment from Amanda, who is sitting in a car. So let's read this out. So if you're happy for us to, Amanda. I've not read it yet, but I just wondered if it was something that you wanted aired out loud. Okay, thank you. I've had situations like this between Muslim school community parents and the school. The school were asked if they would be able to address the distress Muslim students might feel after the massacre in New Zealand last year, as had been done after events in Manchester and Paris. The school Muslim population I'd estimate at 10%. The idea was shut down with very little empathetic response. The tone of the school's objection suggested that students ought not to be routinely distressed or engaged by every incident that occurs, as if this one were too far away. Muslim parents felt unseen and unsupported. Some lives matter less, was the feeling they had. Gosh. What's people's reactions to that anecdote from Amanda?
Yeah, I think it goes to that whole idea that you don't count, you don't matter, your perspective doesn't carry weight. Even when sometimes when it's the right thing to do to show empathy for students who you know, would have seen violence and would have had some kind of emotional response. But because they're in a group that is considered less, you know. And I was also thinking about Layla. You know, she is this observer. She's observing. She's not participating, but she's observing. And even her response, it's, you know, her tone of voice, it's very soft, very timid, very, she doesn't want to take up space, you know? So I was just thinking about her as well. you know, because she's also a minority, as we see here. So how is she like thinking in that situation? That's what I was thinking about, you know?
Yeah, Layla's role is really interesting because from the first scene, from what we are aware of, there wasn't a great deal in it. There wasn't a great deal of physical contact or aggression from the part of Mary. But in that second scene, she's not denying that there was physical contact, and even going a step further and perhaps having it forced out of her, insinuating that there was some kind of aggression, physical aggression from Mary towards Hayley. Did that bring up any feelings for anybody watching and listening to that? So you're nodding, Lakita, and is this in relation to the comment you just left? Okay, so Lakita says someone's moving in next door, so it's a bit noisy. So thanks for taking the effort to write this. She says the line about "we don't see colour here" is very often used to avoid difficult discussions around racism. Also, I see Lila being caught in the middle of the issue and her discomfort because she may not have seen anything, and yet it feels like she has to choose a side. And also, she may just want to avoid the conflict because of trauma she may have experienced. Wow, that's a really, I feel in here a lot of empathy from you to Lila there for her situation, despite the lack of, I mean, we don't know a lot about Lila. So it's really interesting that you've been able to draw so much empathy towards her. Does that resonate with anybody else?
Yes, it does, because it's like being afraid to speak up for somebody who you actually feel support for, because then you recognize that you might in fact get denounced in some way as well, that you could be lumped together. I think it's quite interesting that. I was just thinking of a situation that occurred also recently with one of my team coming to me because she was very concerned about someone accusing somebody else of being racist on the basis that they were of a different skin complexion than they were, and yet by actually bringing up what they did, they were making assumptions that were totally incorrect as well, and having to kind of try and deal with that situation and listen to both sides and enable people to feel connection for each other. Not very easy.
Does that lead you, Marion, to have any empathy for Marion then?
Yeah, it kind of did in a way as well, which I would never really thought about. I wouldn't have empathy for somebody who's so blind to a situation. I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of was being irritated by somebody of that nature, that made me kind of say, I'll do that, play that role, because it was so an antithesis of how I try to behave in the workplace.
Any other thoughts from anybody else before we move on to the final scene? If you're wondering, by the way, why the character Marion was called Marion, played by Marion, it was just because the technical thing involved changing on Zoom, and it was tricky at the time, so we changed the character to Marion. Okay, so let's go into the final scene.
Where we see Mary has been talking to CEO Clive in his office.
So I just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed here. So we've just had Mary go to the line manager, Charlotte, and after the experience that she's just had with Marion, Mary has decided to go to the CEO's office, and this is Clive, the CEO.
Thank you for describing that in such detail, Mary. I hear you, and I want to be clear with you that I take this matter extremely seriously. You're the first person who's voiced a grievance of this kind. If Marion or any member of staff has used racial stereotypes, I will not tolerate it. I've been thinking about implementing mandatory racial sensitivity training, and now my mind is made up. That will be obligatory for all staff in the marketing and sales teams.
Well, that does sound like a step in the right direction.
And do I have your permission to speak to Marion about how you feel?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other concerns on your mind?
Well, I would like to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You have about 19 members of staff on the sales team here, right?
88 to be precise.
Okay. Why am I the only Black person on the team?
Well, it's a complex combination of things, really. You see, first and foremost, we're a business that needs to reach our sales targets. Now take you, for example. You have a name people are familiar with, Mary. People, when they're called out of the blue on the phone, like to feel that they're talking to someone familiar. And you don't sound stereotypically, you know, you enunciate really well. I know it's not right, but the data speaks for itself. We've had several Black employees in the sales team in the past, and they just haven't been able to reach the numbers required. We cover a predominantly white middle-class area, you see. Unfortunately, when somebody gets a call from a LaQuisha or a Tyrone, they're statistically less likely to buy. But that won't stop us from promoting promising Black talent like you.
Right.
Look, I know, I don't like it either. So I made sure the company supports the Black community in other ways, like with the Black Lives Matter campaign on social media we did last month. That got a lot of engagement. And then there's our Botswana Schools initiative. I wish it were different, but when you've got shareholders to appease, we have no choice but to follow the data. It's just the way the world works, I'm afraid.
It's just the way the world works. I saw some faces cringing during that. What are people's first instinct reactions to it? How did it make you feel listening to that?
You know, I mean, he made me cringe because it was like, he thinks that he's being so good. You know, like he's really, I'm a good guy, I'm on your side, you know, and then on the other side, he is continuing the practices that create unequal outcomes. So it's like one step forward and 2 steps back. So there's no progress.
Yeah, for me, there's this real dissonance that really strikes me that he mentions, but we're doing the Black Lives Matter campaign. Yet clearly from his actions, he's completely disconnected from the meaning of it. And it's funny because I wrote this, but it was only after I wrote that part of the script and listened to it back, I was like, gosh, you know, then it made me angry. It wasn't while I was actually writing it, which was curious. Yeah, how did anybody else feel about it? And what do you think the issues are at play?
Sometimes I want to know if they truly, I don't know how to put it. It's confusing to me. So I don't know if they are just afraid that they would be shunned by their community, or they would be ill-treated because they decide to make that difference where they stand up for the Black community. I don't know if it's, you know, they are being cowards. I don't know if they need, I don't know if it's more education so that they can wake up. I am confused as well about it. Because like, okay, you say you're helping, but really and truly you're not helping. So I guess it's, someone has to be there to truly wake them up, you know, have them realize, okay, no, you're not really helping that much. You have so much still to learn, right? I mean, I don't want to be discouraging, but I mean, okay, at least you're trying, but there's so much to it.
What does Clive make you feel Emotionally.
Emotionally, just confused and sad. And it's like, yeah, at first it's like, okay, he understands what she's going through. And then it's like, okay, not really. Okay, that's kind of sad. Yeah.
So a sense that he, do you genuinely believe that he is somebody who wants to act against racism? You genuinely believe that that's what
I think he doesn't want, he wants peace. He wants to be loved by everybody. I don't know. Because
Okay,
I've been in a situation where, not this particular situation, but a situation where I had to pick, well, not really pick side, but choose what was right. But it was between my friends. And I'm like, oh boy, she is wrong for what she's doing, but I know she will hate me because I don't pick up for her. So I was in between that, and I was just struggling to be brave enough to speak out. But eventually, after a few days, I was like, I have to be real with you guys. Yeah. As friends, you know, you have to be real. If you truly care, you would listen and want to improve and want what's best for your friendship. So I think it's not want to be disliked.
Yeah. Well, the character of Clive is actually based on the description that was given to me by one of our team of somebody that she knows. And this person is somebody actually dear to her, you know, somebody she likes, somebody she appreciates, but at the same time has these flaws and isn't aware, isn't awake to a reality outside of their own bubble. So let's read Lakita's comment here. When the CEO started speaking, on the surface, it sounded like he understood and was aware of the issues, like has already been said. But when he said that he was organising training for staff, that immediately suggested that he saw himself as not needing to participate in that sensitisation. But I also think that he has highlighted the issue here is that this is not just within the particular company. Society as a whole has brought into this. So he is right to say it makes business sense to hire people with certain names. Interesting. We have all bought into these stereotypes in one way or another, and as a society, I suppose that is, and as a society need to face our own biases to truly address this issue. This shows how complex the issue is. I think we all have a lot to learn still. One part that jumped out to me was where you said, society as a whole is bought into it. So he is right to say it makes business sense to hire people with certain names. Like he outlined at the start of his long diatribe, after all, we are a business. So it sounds like you've got some degree of empathy for Clive, despite his downfalls. Let's have a look. Oh, go on, Lakita, no.
She said no.
Not at all. No empathy whatsoever. Interesting. So we've been having discussions in the team about empathy, because I don't either. I don't have any empathy for him at all. But some other people feel as if, you know, after all, he's in a particular situation. Lipsa says, I think it's that pressure to be rational and logical and analytical that people in business are taught to be. That's a really interesting angle. So Lakita added, sorry, I've only just seen this part, when he talks about her ability to articulate herself, unlike me, it is reminiscent of when people say you speak/act white, because people of color can articulate themselves or have certain interests. Roz says, I agree, Lakita, it is a systemic issue and we all have much to learn to address it. And then Lakita adding to the point about empathy towards Clive, but I get what he says because this is the society we operate in. So yeah, it's really complex. Anybody want to respond to those comments?
Yeah,
yeah.
Marian, go ahead.
It's interesting as well because given that I've also been able to observe in several different countries how some of this operates too. It was very interesting to see it in Sri Lanka, where you've got skin color plays such an incredible part there, whereas people who have paler complexion are seen as more beautiful and more desirable for marriage purposes between Sinhalese groups, which was interesting to me to observe as well. So, and then you saw the caste system in operation as well, and those who were outside the caste system, and how that all made a huge complexity as in addition. So it's quite interesting to have observed that too.
And Delia, what was it you wanted to say?
Yeah, he reminded me of the CEO of Wells Fargo maybe like a month ago, saying that his issues with hiring more Black is the pool of talent. And I mean, it was a big discussion on Twitter where obviously the HBCUs are just, you know, throwing them out, the graduates. So it's like, it requires work, you know, it requires work and on behalf of the people who have the power. But then again, it's like telling people with power, hey, give up your power, you know, so that other people can become more powerful. And it's like, is that really in their best interest? You know, so it's almost, yeah, all these human rational kind of thinking is working to maintain little small changes on the surface that may look like if it's something is really happening, but no real movement, you know, because the movement should be that we can appreciate a name that is different. We can appreciate a Shalanda, whatever name, and see the beauty in its name, as opposed to aligning it with some negative stereotype.
I need your consent.
What was that? Was that somebody's computer talking to us?
Yes, I think so.
All right, okay. Marion, you just added there, how about looking at power differently, power over and power within? Would that help? So just looking at the time, because we started a little bit behind and now we've had a nice long discussion, we do need to get motoring. So I want to ask a question now that will make you think. Which character irked you the most? Which character did you have the most aversion to? Just think about that for a second. And also, I'm going to just drop in something else here. You remember at the start, the whole scenario was about a muffin that Haley accused Mary of stealing. Mary was like, I clearly haven't stolen it. Well, actually, she didn't necessarily steal it, Mary, but Haley had put the muffin aside. She had taken it off the shelf and put it to one side, ready to pick up after she'd come back from the bathroom. So just wonder if that changes anything for you as to regards Haley's reaction. So think about the character that irked you the most, you have the most aversion to. And if that does change for you, would you write it in the chat if that revelation about the muffin, if that does change anything for you, or doesn't, even if you're adamant that doesn't change anything for you, could you just drop it into the chat because it'll be interesting to hear about. So in the next, we're going to go into a breakout and you're going to get the chance to read through that role play as the character that you had the most aversion to, the character that might have made you the most angry, the most frustrated, whatever it is. But first, I'm going to bring in Margaret, because Margaret would like to share something important about, well, I'll let you describe what it's about, Margaret.
Okay, it would be great if you could write in the chat which of the characters you felt most irked by. I like how you put that, Adam. Can you guys do that so we could see?
Oops.
Haley. Oh, that's you, Adam. Come on, guys. Come on, come on. Come on. Which character irked you the most? No character irked anyone.
Well, I think they all irked everybody.
Is that it?
It's more of a challenge to pick one.
Is it a challenge to pick one?
Ah, that's interesting.
Lipsa doesn't feel irked. No, that does not change the racism and privilege behind Haley's attitude and her cruelty at abusing her privilege. No, that does not change the racism. So you're saying being irked doesn't change the racism. So you choose not to be. What am I missing?
No, it was Adam's question.
Oh, sorry.
The added piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change anything.
Right.
So nobody has said no for a start.
So it makes you wonder with Haley, if the person who took the muffin, she felt that they were on the same level, would she have that response as she did to Mary? You know?
All right. Well, if the breakouts, I don't know how much sense the breakout makes if you all are not irked by anyone in the role play.
I've seen several names. So Debbie said Haley, especially Haley.
I'm not seeing.
Ross
Okay.
said Haley as well. Yolanda says Lila and the CEO on different levels.
Ethan says Charlotte. Who's Charlotte?
Oh, Charlotte is Marion. Sorry, I think that's an error in the script. But
Right,
Charlotte.
Ethan, I feel the same way about Marion. I think out of all of the characters, because I would say that Marion seems to me someone who is, ostensibly spiritual and at peace and calm and does have a certain space from the issues, and to use that space to make someone who is feeling a sense of unfairness, like something is wrong with them. I mean, yeah, that's the one I'd be most irked by. So guys, there's no right or wrong in this, but we just wanted you to think about that before you go into the room to do this role play. Which character do you think will stretch you the most if you were to step into their shoes and actually do the role play? And as you go into the breakout rooms and whoever your partner is, what we're going to ask you to do is really feel into, as you read the role play and read your character's role, and I'd ask you to just, bear with us, just try it, just put yourself in there and try it. And as you read it, really try to put yourself, imagine what it would be like to be that person. And as you read the words, feel into your body, be really present in your body, and feel into how stepping into that person's shoes makes you feel in your body and where. And so, for example, if you're stepping into Clive and you're reading Clive, it's like, okay, we want you to answer a couple questions. What is Clive feeling? We are hearing what he's thinking from the role play. What is he feeling? And take note of that. And then we want you to make a guess, your best guess as to what may be the needs driving the feelings that Clive has. And then you can discuss it with your partner and we bring you back in. What we would like to add before you go in is that you've gone through a couple of approaches to understanding the other over the last few days. You can feel free to lean on whatever you've learned in those last few days as you step into the shoes to try to analyze what this person is thinking and feeling and what are the underlying needs. Dominic Bartlett, for those of you who know a bit about peace building work, he is, quite, has put a lot of work and research into peace building and conflict transformation. And he says that what is required when approaching these situations is that we need to really understand what respect means. And he says respect, when you look at the etymology of the word respect, re means to return, and spect means to look. And so respect put together is to look again. And so what we want you to do in this exercise is to look again, because our first instinctual reactions to situations and to people, yes, that is a legitimate and valid reaction. And you may be irked, you may have an aversion to it. And what we are asking you to do is to look again. Look again for the shared humanity. Look again for the common bonds that you may have with the character. There is shared humanity there. And if you go to the area of needs, what is it that this character needs? What is driving this character's feelings and thoughts? Then you may get closer to the shared humanity. And Adam, how long is this breakout?
It is going to be, we would say 15 minutes, but we're starting to run out of time. So we're going to aim for about 12 minutes, I should think. And I'm just going to paste the link into the private chat again, just in case anybody needs that.
Okay, I'm ready to send you all into breakout rooms. So let's go.
How many?
Adam suggested 2 breakout rooms.
2.
You want more than those?
We can do it in pairs, or because I was thinking we'd get 5 different people reading the 5 different parts. But if you feel,
okay.
I'll do it as well.
Okay.
Okay, so 2 rooms.
Yep.
Okay, let's go. Okay, guys. When you see the join breakout room, just accept, and you'll be off. See you shortly. You don't need to go, Margaret. It's okay. I'm not going to the breakout room because it's
God.
What?
I am unbelievably tired, and
unbelievably
unbelievably dead.
It's okay. It's okay. We getting what we need. Don't be alarmed. You're not unbelievably tired. Only you don't believe that you could be this tired. But I mean, we've been looking, so you're believably tired. Just you have like 45 minutes to Baileys. Hang in there.
I hope I could really pull it together and be all energetic to do this.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes you don't need to be energetic. Just be authentic.
Am I not?
You're always authentic, but most of the time you're hugely energetic. And I'm saying that even though you're not feeling energetic, you could still bring your authenticity from a place of quiet, certain power. How I sound?
I think maybe, to get me into the mode, I'm gonna have to tell a story or something, because I had to connect. You know what I mean? I have to connect, and I'm not connected with these people at this moment. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, we literally have somebody named Lakita in the room. I was like, okay. Hey, I'm not taking time. 137, 147. We're pulling them out. Okay. No. I just realized that. Yeah. So 147. We're pulling them out. Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, you could touch from different places, man. But this is your big vision, literally coming in. Big
I
outsized
promise
vision.
I promise you. No, big, you mean the whole event?
Yeah. The thing is that this is real.
Yeah, watch and see, because we have close to 1,700 on the list now. The momentum is there for us to do the work to really curate this community properly.
Absolutely.
And build going forward. No, it's all good. I mean, we'll talk. But this lab,
it's okay.
I'm a little tired.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's like right now, even in my head, you know, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna say? Not quite sure. You know?
Yeah. Was that the right document?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. Cool. Oh man, me and Charlotte had a good time this morning, man.
You and Charlotte?
Yeah. Is it Charlotte? The restorative justice.
Oh,
yeah.
She's great.
She's amazing. She had she couldn't get on. She was doing it from her cell phone. She drank some tea. She had a joint.
She had a joint? Oh my God.
It was the best. It was the best.
Was anybody there?
Not while she had the joint, but people came in, and it was a really good discussion. And it is.
You notice people keep people who plugged in kept coming back.
Yeah. That is, it's really people are feeling fed, as you say. People are feeling fed by this, feeling seen, hungry for the connection in all sorts of ways. That woman with the low PhD, is somebody trying to join now. I'm not gonna let anybody else in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you want to let him in?
Oh no. Keep them in the waiting room until other people come.
Okay.
We don't have a waiting room?
We have a waiting room, but I mean, he hasn't been here at all for the week. So I don't know. You want to introduce that? Let him in? Okay. All right. Yeah.
No, but don't let him in while we here talking.
No.
I talking to my friend and them.
Yeah, that's here with my friend and them.
Yeah, talk good, my friend and them. And you put her foot down and you say, Margaret, I do not. Anyway, now I feel in my body as I see that. Not right time, not right place.
All right. Okay, cool. Cool. Oh,
I was going to make a comment about career.
Don't do it. Save it. Yeah, we just you're going in. This is, I mean, you know what you have seen, but for those of us who even this was outside and all we had is, I mean, for me, I'm like, I trust you. I don't see how we're doing this, but I trust you. You seen it? All right. You want me to do? All right. Okay. Willy.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. A very complex endeavor. Anya and I have already started unpacking it because we have failed to meet our targets, and that is a fact. And we're not going to shy away from that at all, right? But we'll talk about it after, because I've done a certain amount of packing and integration. I think on day 3, the night of day 3, it was really sinking in for me. Okay, you're not meeting your targets.
Okay.
Right? The first day, when I was still, because I'm like, no, people are gonna come. First day, website crashed. I say, okay, let's send out the links. Let's get the people in.
Yeah.
We get hacked. You understand? Yeah. Then day 3, everything was slow to go up, things were slow to go out, and website not really fixed. So the links not really directing you back to Zoom room as they're supposed to direct you back to Zoom room. They're sending you to login page, all that. So from day 3, it was very slow. If you look on the website, we went from hundreds registering, 54, you know, day 3, 4, and 5, right? Yeah. So from day 3, I knew, this is interesting, and I felt the disappointment on day 3, but of course I went in and I did my process, and I emerged with gratitude, just deep gratitude, because look at what we've done. It's 129 speakers, you know, of high caliber, who gave up their time and energy to do this, who are resources we can continue to pull on going forward with. We've created amazing digital assets. We have a list of close to 1,700 people. And I mean, I think
all I have to say, you are an unreasonable human.
And
you are an unreasonable human person.
No, but then check the fourth part. Check how God is always sweeping and take care of me. Sell a property and have 1-point-something million in the bank. You understand what I'm saying?
You, Margaret Rose,
and
be the only person. You be the only person. You start, all right, let me do a money thing. Days pass. You reach day 5. Man, you know, day 5, you know. Oh, I made $1 million, you know. I mean, like, woman, yeah.
An unexpected. So, but
I
you know what?
did 5 days
really
a well program
because...
and make $1 million. Hey, watch they have a couple minutes. I just watching the time for the breakout. Listen, 40 minutes of breakout rooms. I went on.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm feeling like I need not to be in that space, to be fair. Cool, I mustn't, let's not talk negatively about now. I have no idea what I'm about to say, Alyssa. I really have to feel the room. I'm not feeling 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 that we have them, and you know, it's interesting.
I mean,
it's interesting.
If not the room, can you reach for the rest of us? Can you? Oh, you know what? Can you reach for Earthen? Can you reach for Earthen?
Can I tell you something? Earthen is in a whole different place, you know.
That's right.
You see what he said about his detachment was his trauma?
Whoa. Yeah.
Whoa.
We're doing some with my brother. My brother called me today. He just called me. He said, Alyssa, I just called you to tell you that I am proud of you.
Really?
Yeah. Just like, it's like, he calls me 5'5". Say 5'5". I just called you to tell you that I'm proud of you. And I mean, we had actually that during the breakout time, I took his call and walked away, and we had, I mean, an extraordinary conversation. All right, they have a minute left, so I'm going to close breakout rooms and pull them back, right? So in a minute, they'll be back.
I don't know what I'm seeing, Alyssa.
Margaret Rose. Right, so then you open up and you trust and you jump with both feet. You know that. So you could just let that go and just jump. And all of us, I mean, trust that. I mean, look at everybody's here with you. Yolanda, Amanda came and has been coming. Earthen is here, he came back. I mean, Adam just starring, you know.
Adam was great.
Yeah. And we all over. Yolanda, Adam, just, yeah. It's a beautiful thing. We in the pocket. All right, let me close. Let's go.
I feel I might do a PowerPoint, yes? We don't have time.
if you do a PowerPoint, don't sell it to us. Don't sell it to us. You don't need to sell it to us. You can walk us through it, but don't sell it to us.
Oh,
You
God,
don't
I stand to do
need to
that.
convince the jury. You just invite us into the space that you have spent so much time working in and putting your heart and your head and your body into.
Oh, God.
Just invite us in. Just invite us in, really. Just invite us in. That's it. That's it. 19 seconds and they will be back. And we're almost there. Whoa, we're living on a prayer. Take my hand. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
That was 12 minutes?
Time flies, doesn't it?
That was really 12 minutes, for real?
Leslie Ann Noel would call it a design constraint. Welcome back, guys.
I'm shocked as well.
There's some great acting in
We
our
were
group.
able to.
Well, yeah, we just kind of spoke under different characters and having an empathetic perspective, you know, from each of them. Didn't go through the characters. Yeah.
Margaret, you froze on us. But yeah, before we run out of time, let's get straight into harvesting then what people felt as they took on the role of a character that irked them, that they felt the most aversion to. What were the thoughts, the feelings, and the needs that led to their actions that surged to the surface for you?
I can say for that person, I sounded out. I acted as Marian, but it was a further participation in this denial of literally just simply communicating. I'm not directing that communication to anything in specific. It could be anything, but there's a blockage there where whatever is said, she's rigidly in her own prejudice or mindset, and thereby stops any communication. So it just becomes a speech. It's not a speaking to, it's not a speaking with, but it's the speaking to another human being.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, can I say, I felt, I did Clive, but I had felt most irked by Haley. And this was the first time I was able to engage with the story properly, because I was, able to focus on it properly. And I still feel most irked by Haley. I feel most irked by Haley. And Earthen is showing why, in his words, in his language, why I felt irked by Haley. Haley could have handled that better. I don't know Haley, but I just feel she handled that in an arrogant, stupid way. I mean, okay, so one muffin left and someone picks it up. At your age, just explain politely. All of that language of you stole it. Oh, I'm really angry with Haley. Because
what happened?
I think from me, I was Haley. From reading it for myself, I'm like, well, she probably was nurtured really,
I think I have to move out of this
really badly. She probably was given a lot of privileges and seen Black people treated unfairly. So she thinks it's okay, had to be, that she, was in a particular environment where Black people weren't respected at all. For her to think like that, it's just like, what? So I really think it's the way she was nurtured. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
I can say also,
I really think probably, I mean, you're in an environment where you see certain things played off a particular way, you get accustomed to it and you think, okay, it's normal. And because you're enjoying the life, you don't question it, because you're not going through what that other person is going through. You're enjoying life. Everything is good for you. you know, you have a lot of privileges, so you won't really care about other people that much. So I guess.
I also, what happens in me now also, this with Mary, just to say that also, that there's also the exact same happening where she's participating in blocking off when Haley comes to her and say, hey, that's my muffin. Mary just say, no, it's not. Instead of asking Haley, okay, it's your muffin, why? Like there, the conversation also stops.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that one. Did anything shift for anybody? So when you took on the character that you did your opinion of that character change? Did your feelings toward that character change?
Slightly, yeah.
There was one comment that Roz made right at the end, which helps me see something else, which I think was very helpful.
Which is the systemic, the system at play.
Please share for all of us.
Yeah, Roz, do you want to share it?
Yeah, I just say that it helps me too, just to remember that there is such systemic racism that it's caused the bias to be unconscious to such an extent that people are oblivious, absolutely, to the impact of it and the extent to which they are subject to it, and that the way forwards is for me to try and remember that level of it without it being a pointing fingers at individuals. Can help.
That's really interesting, and I think while it's good, it doesn't deal with personal actions, because the system, there are players in the system. Everything that we do, we either move the system forward, or it stays, or we disrupt the system.
So we need to disrupt it. I know.
I think we have to acknowledge that my actions and my perspectives and my point of view, it perpetuates or it stops. And how can what is the outcome that I'm looking for? And what is the role that I can play in changing the system outputs?
I can say, Ross, this that you say, and now I may be dropping something that is contrary. No, it's not. For me to see, there's also what I have seen through exactly these unconscious biases that are not talked about is this, like Laquita, you write this. When he talks about her ability to articulate herself, it is reminiscent of when people say you speak, act white, because people of color can articulate themselves or have certain interests. And I hear many people also use this word of white, where for me to see, it is not about whiteness. It's not about the race. It's about culture. It's Western. Like when the amazing Myrna, that was the only thing happening in me. The amazing Myrna yesterday spoke about how the educational system went in over the indigenous people, and they were just wanting them to be white. For me, that's a bias, because it's not being white. It's about culture. It's them being, we can call it Western. That would be more relevant, because when I travel to another place of the planet, or I'm raised in Africa or wherever, it's about my cultural expression that makes me and act and do things that many people call white or black and so on, but it's not about that. It's about culture. It's about experience. And for me to see, there's exactly this subconscious bias there where and it's not to, and so on for it all, but it's not to disclaim anything, but it's simply to say that there's a mix up for me to see of this, where the deciphering of race and culture is not right, it's not physically coherent, and where the bias comes up, where it becomes in the sound of it racism, where you call somebody white, or you want them to speak and act white. No, you cannot, because if I'm raised in Africa, I'm speaking as that place, that culture, and I'm speaking now I'm Western, and it just so happens with history and so on that most white people come with this Western, but that doesn't mean it's white, because there's many black people and brown people and so on that are in the exact same culture. and not as many, and so on. So I just wanted to mention that.
Before,
what I would say, okay.
Can I just say one thing, because we're just a timekeeping thing. We're only a few minutes away from the hour. Are we on a hard deadline, or are we able to, because we're brimming, you know, the conversation is really flowing and we'd be ashamed to cut it off. Are we okay to go on for another few minutes? I'm going to take that silence.
If others are okay, I can try to make it.
I know we started a little late, so.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, I thought someone else was jumping in to speak, so I blocked my mic. Well, just to respond to Ethan there, but is it that it has to be an either or? This is always the what comes up, you know? So yes, culture is part of the expression of this, but color, white and black, to people of color is also an expression of this. The color of our skins, we carry it with us every day into our life, into the workplace, into the communities, into the world, and the world treats us a particular way, not because of only our cultural expression, but also just by reason of the color of our skin. So I think it's really a complex issue we are trying to unpack. There's no one direct causation. So it's not, oh, it's culture, or oh, it's race. It's both, and it's many other things as well. And I think that's what we're trying to progress to understanding. And I think Ross is quite right. We have, one of the things we're trying to do with developing the framework, the radical empathy framework, is trying to take a systems view of conflict. So that for those of you who are involved in conflict transformation and peace building work, you know that what has emerged as some of the most powerful strategies and tools would be nonviolent communication methods and tools, which are based on empathy, having deep empathy for yourself, and then having deep empathy for the other. What are the thoughts, feelings, and needs that are driving human beings? And also when you're engaged in conflict with another, really trying to connect with that other person, not just on what is presenting to you, but trying to seek what are the underlying needs that are happening here, and what is the impact that is being created by the actions here. And so that's what empathy, I would call it empathy simpliciter, through nonviolent communications that we went through on Tuesday. That's what it's all about, and that's important, an important part of the equation, I think, which is the individual to the individual. One of the challenges with that kind of approach to empathy, though, is that we have found developing, and I'm speaking now not only from reading and research and doing training in this, but from a lived experience. From a lived experience with this situation, that in the field of building empathy, in this discipline that we're all a part of, we're all trying to build deeper and deeper empathy, there is actually a sense that people who are angry and hurt and who embody a lot of trauma to the extent that they don't have space, it seems a responsibility is being placed on them to take care of themselves. And, you know, using NVC, nonviolent communication, is about individual responsibility for emotional responses. And we've, you know, having a lived experience with this, I am from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, and this thing was underlying. It really, I didn't have much of a, you know, exposure to some of the things I've experienced in the last decade since I've been living here in the UK. And so I didn't have language for it, for the stuff that I was experiencing. when I came to live in the UK, from people who I care about, who I love, my husband who's white. I didn't have language for it because my husband is not racist. And there's no way I would ever accept that he's racist, but there are situations and statements that would be made. And when I would convey the hurt and the pain, sorry, I missed Lipsa's story.
He's given me the nod to read it out. So please finish what you're telling us. That sounded really important. And then I'll go to Lipsa's comment that she's left.
Yeah, I'm just sharing why we decided in USOL to start thinking about a more radical form of empathy. Because, you know, when people of color are experiencing trauma, that, yes, of course, wouldn't it be better that they didn't feel that way and that they could take responsibility for their actions? You know, they're made to feel like something is wrong with them, and, you know, they are damaged, and, you know, they need to fix them. You need to fix yourself. You know, we care about you, but you need to fix yourself because this is, you know, and so there seems to be something wrong with those who have the space from trauma, putting the responsibility for healing and on the person who is traumatized. And we're saying it's a complex situation. There is a responsibility on the traumatized to address their trauma, but there's also a systemic responsibility that once we are part of a system with another person, then there comes a responsibility with that. And I'm going to stop here because I do want to get to Lipsa's story. We obviously not going to have the time to go into the radical empathy framework tonight. But let's see where the discussion goes. Let's listen to.
Thank you, Margaret. So Lipsa says, I want to share why I didn't feel irked. For the last 4 years, I've been fighting with my father because he wouldn't accept my partner, who is from an untouchable caste in India. We haven't spoken in years now. For me, it has been a shock that my father felt that some people are less equal than others. He has threatened with honor suicide if I ever marry here. For the first 2 years, I was tortured with anger and resentment. But then I realized amidst all that, in all that I was losing memory of him, it's like I had mourned over him and moved on, like he didn't exist, the way he wouldn't acknowledge my presence, even as we cohabit the same home for the last 4 years. So in my attempt at preserving memory, I began reminding myself to see him in the light being my nurturer. With him, I have learned to hold both the thoughts together. I realized I was losing my anger and starting to acknowledge his pain for real too. After years, I felt that empathy for him and my own peace.
That's beautiful, Lipsa.
You're really touched that you considered this a safe and welcome place to share something so personal and deep. Thank you.
Goes to something that I think Margaret and Alyssa and I had shared, where this civilization, that we have built on a fundamental lie, that we are somehow unequal and disconnected. I mean, what greater love than a child, than a parent to a child and a child to a parent, having kids myself. There's no other love like that. And because society has built these structures that say, this person is not worthy or whatever, could come and separate, you know, this love. You know, it's really sobering. It really is sobering, and it really speaks to we who seek truth. We have to continue our work and persevere so that no mother, no father and daughter should be separated by this construct that says someone is, you know, in a poor caste or untouchable. It speaks to that for me.
Does anyone have any other reflections to share? Ross.
Can I just say, thank you for this. I'm finding it a very rich conversation, and I wanted to mention the collective trauma summit that I recently attended, because I think we've come to that place with that wonderful story about how do we go forwards, and the healing that has to be done somehow collectively, acknowledging the trauma that's been touched on here. I think it runs in the civilization that's gone awry, as Delia just said. It's to flag it up.
Thank you.
I wonder, Margaret, we've got a question or two still about the scenario. I wonder if what's the pull for you to discuss those, or to go straight into what you wanted to share in conclusion?
If I could, if I could jump in, I would really like. I think you know the scenario has given us a lot of richness, and Lipsa has taken us to a place of real depth with respect to healing of trauma. The radical empathy method that Margaret has, and has been Margaret's life's work for a number of years. I think that if you would share with us the framework of that, Margaret, and the possibly the cure square method, if that is appropriate, and we can invite people to go forward, because as you can see, this is work that requires us to be so present and so vulnerable, and it is also work that can't be rushed.
That's part of what I'm feeling in me, that I wouldn't want to rush this. What I would say is that when we look at the pathways that we've explored over the last few days, we have not arbitrarily explored these pathways. In 1960 or thereabouts, Professor Johan Galtung, who is considered the father of peace studies, who was supposed to speak at this summit, and we pre-recorded a version of his talk. My son just walked in because I had to leave my office. He developed the concept of positive peace and negative peace, the concepts of positive peace and negative peace, and showed that the way in which up to that point we had considered peace, it was all about how do we stop violence, how do we prevent conflict, but not about how do we positively create just outcomes in society. And so he developed the work and produced, because he was a social scientist, he was a mathematician, among other things, and he produced what is called the peace formula. And I will just share what that peace formula is. Apparently, I'm disabled from screen sharing. Can someone help me with that?
I think Alyssa's trying to enable you. I'm finding the formula now, just in case that doesn't work.
You're finding it?
I am. So I can share it on my screen if you still don't have the right.
I can share.
Oh, you can now. Okay.
Yeah. This is Galtung's peace formula. Galtung says peace occurs where equity multiplied by harmony outweighs the unresolved trauma multiplied by the unsolved conflict. Over the last 4 days, we have looked at equity through the lens of restorative justice practices. Did I say empathy or equity? What did I say?
You said equity.
We've looked at, yeah, right. That's correct then. Equity through the lens of restorative justice practices, justice as fairness, mutual cooperation, and harmony, as Professor Galtung describes it, is empathy plus respect. And on Tuesday, we looked at the nonviolent communication approach toward empathy. On Thursday, we looked at embodied trauma and how we hold trauma within ourselves. And in resolving conflict, we can combine these approaches. One of the things I would like to say about the peace formula and about the different pathways we've explored for the last 4 days is that one is not better than another. We are not in any way saying, oh, one is absolute and another is in opposition to it, as in it's either we use this or we use that. We look at the human body as a complex adaptive system, as you all know. And so it is the combination of these pathways coming together that will help us to understand the question that we ask in the radical empathy formula: what is wanting to emerge from this conflict? That is the question that we ask when we are approaching we're looking at the radical empathy framework. What is wanting to emerge in the context of this conflict? And when we say we are taking a system thinking approach, it's because we are mapping the individual human body systems that are in the conflict, but we are also mapping the relationship itself in that conflict. So that if 2 people are in a conflict, we actually look at 3 components in the system: the 2 people and the relationship itself is a part of that system. And so when we think of the case study we just went through and the role play we just went through today, we look at each of the individuals in the system. We take what is called a radical empathy approach, which I'm not going to go through tonight. I'm speaking slowly, but I'm tying this up in less than a couple minutes. We don't have the time to go through it tonight, but this is what we're working on based on a system thinking framework based on the neurointelligence centers in the body. The latest in neuroscience and neurobiological studies demonstrates that we actually have very complex neurointelligence centers in our gut, in our brain, and in our heart, and in our nervous system. And we are learning so much every day about bottom-up decision-making processes in the body, bottom-up intelligence. We spent a long time you know, thinking and unpacking our head-based approaches to understanding the world around us. And what the radical empathy method helps us to do is to begin to unpack how we are connecting with issues from our gut selves, our responsive and reactive selves, right? From our brain, our cognitive, you know, what are we consciously thinking and putting out into the world? What are we? And through the heart, we see the heart as integrative, as integrating the knowledge and wisdom of our subconscious selves and our conscious selves, and connecting as well to the intelligence outside of ourselves that is within the system that we are all in. And this is the underpinning of some work that we are currently developing. And when we look at the case study that we went through today, what we will leave you with are just questions. And the questions that we would leave you with are, what is the next right step for each of those characters? Because each of those characters each one is a complex adaptive system with their gut, brain, heart, emotional, cognitive, spiritual, and integrative responses. And in the space between them, between each of them, there's a system, another complex system. And then between 3 and 4, there are more complex systems. And then as an entire system, with all of them in it, there is another system. And one of the principles in systems thinking is that every system that exists serves a purpose. It has an underlying function. If it does not, it would not exist. It would cease to exist. And so for each of the players in that system, they are interconnected and interdependent. What role are they playing to sustain the system that we've just gone through? What role are they playing to sustain the system that we've got through? And what's the next right step they may have to do if they want to feed forward different information into the system so that we have more accountability going forward? And these are just questions I will leave you with, because we don't have the time, I think, to go through this process. So for example, if we were to ask, one of the things I wanted to say about Clive, because I'm not sure I heard it come out, I think the closest was something Lakita said. Clive represents power in that system. Clive represents power in that system. And what we saw is that even though Clive had good intentions and seemed to be a good person and consciously trying to have good intentions, because he was part of a larger system that was about profit and underlying narratives of the market, him being subject to the power within that system, that was what he gave into within the organization that he was in. So for each character, what we need to analyze is, what is their role? Even as Earthan pointed out with Mary, what is their role in upholding and serving the system? And what is the next right step that they would need to take? Each of them. If you step into each shoes, what is the next right step for each of them?
Have you seen Ross's question on that in the comments, Margaret?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, this is always the question. What do we mean by right? What do we mean by right? It's a very important question, because right and wrong is a very triggering concept, particularly to those who are in peace building and who are in empathy-based work. And we feel like radical empathy, which I haven't defined, because we're running through. Radical empathy is the search for truth in connection with the other. It's the search for truth in connection with the other. So it is the relational truth we are seeking, not just the subjective truth of each party's, but the relational truth that we are seeking with radical empathy. And we do that through seeking to connect, to understand, connect with our feelings, to understand what we're thinking, to figure out through our techniques, to feel into and to breathe into our hearts and connect with intelligence greater than ourselves, to understand what the right response is going to be. Yeah, we're gonna have to close up shortly because I have a 9-year-old around me expecting me to have finished half an hour ago, doing things. I don't have it, darling, right? So what do we mean by right? The next step that would lead to peace. That's beautiful, Ross. That's beautiful, Ross. Yes. And it's the step that will serve the system that you are trying to create in the world. Because if Mary, if her next step after all of this was to be, I need this job, I'm just going to keep my head down and I'm going to, forget about, asserting myself or anything like that. I need this job. Then what we would find is that the system would be preserved. The system would be sustained. And so Mary has a complex decision to make because she needs the job. She needs the job. But also, there is a deep human need to be valued, to be respected, to be understood. And if she gives into a system that does not recognize that, then what can she expect? And so it's about what kind of nuanced decision can she make that holds the complexity of both perspectives. And these are the kinds of decisions we have to make, all of us in this room, we have to make every single day. We have, and you see, Ross said it earlier, and I really, I really agree that how we hold the complexity is by always being aware of the system, always being aware of the system and your role in the system. So it's not only about understanding how you feel and how someone else feels, but it's also about what does the system require? And making that decision in every situation. And agreed, Laquita, Agreed, Laquita. And so the question is, what skills can we develop if we need that job and we want to take on the responsibility for system change? And I'm not saying everybody should or ought to, but if Mary does want to take on the responsibility for system change and needs the job, then she is taking the step toward a far more complex interaction with the system. Could you define peace?
I just wanted to elucidate the point that sometimes we think peace and quiet are the same thing. So, you know, just very, very briefly, maybe.
Yep. That's really, that's something we've all been working on as well. This approach that is, and this mindset, I will say mindset, that we are seeing gaining a lot of momentum in the world today. There was a book written on it, Mindfulness. There is, there's a lot coming out from the field of yoga, and you know, this thing about let's all be Zen and be peaceful. And there is a sense of those who are angry and hurting and traumatized are somehow not Zen. But as Galtung has elucidated, and as many, you know, people who are traumatized know and feel, is that there can be no peace without justice. And I know justice is a scary word for a lot of people, but positive peace requires accountability in a system, requires the dismantling of privilege. It requires the destruction of systems and the action to dismantle systems that are oppressing others. It requires action to dismantle systems that are oppressing others. And so when we look at nature and we think, oh, nature is so peaceful, this is what peace is. No, nature is also violent and destructive. And that is a form of peace in itself. That is a form of peace. Because when we are dismantling systems of oppression, that is a form of peace. I'm happy to stop.
Thank you, Margaret. That was well said, well received. Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Just as it would be a helpful thing for us as a team, if any of you have any thoughts on the session as a whole that you'd like to share, and or on the whole 5 days, for those that have come to more than just today of this lab, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a comment describing your experience in the private chat as well. So we can take that as feedback for ourselves, and then perhaps also use it in the future to help other people learn about this work and this space.
And I'm sorry, guys, I'm very, very tired tonight.
Well, I think you have a right to be after, this hasn't just been 5 days for you, this has been a couple of months at least.
Yes, Ross. We'd love to have your email.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also put the address, the invitation for the LinkedIn group in the chat. I will put it again, so you can also meet us there, because I mean, that was very, very impactful, and some of us need a little time to just sit with that, and yeah.
Guys, I'm really grateful to everyone who participated in these 5 days in this search. It feels a little unfinished, but you know what? That's what life is. Life continues. We keep stepping. And my hope and my prayer is that seeds have been planted in many different ways over the last 5 days in your hearts. There are opportunities for us to always be looking at the situations that we are in and seeing what is wanting to emerge here and how can I be a channel for it, and how can I be a channel for what's right. And I know sometimes it's really hard for us, you know, to say this is right, this is wrong, but I think we need a little bit more of that in the world these days if we want to set things on a path that's aligned to more of who we are and not less. So have a wonderful evening. Stay connected with us because, yeah, we will be sharing opportunities for you to get into more deeply the radical empathy framework.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm taking all these comments down. Thanks for sharing them. Thank you, Lipsa, as well. Thank you. Thanks for keeping it open, Alyssa, so I can get all those down.
Oh, God. Oh, dear.
What are you feeling?
Yeah, tired, like I didn't do it. But that's okay. Everything emerges as it should. Everything in its right time.
Like you didn't do it? Are you serious, Margaret Rose Goddard? People was ready to cry and bawl and roll on the ground just now.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't feel that at all.
How much we ran over by over half an hour, and people stayed. Debbie sent me a message as well saying she needs to go, but she really doesn't want to. Please let me know how I can be a part of this moving forwards.
She said that?
Yeah, so I've taken down her email address.
No, that
you wanna
was...
unlock. You wanna unlock so Delia could come again?
Okay. No, that was powerful, Margaret.
Really?
You might not have felt that.
I felt like I was reaching. I felt like I was like, okay, they want to know about peace. Okay, what's peace again? I tell you, I was not on point enough.
Oh,
No. You went somewhere that you're not used to going. But I'm telling you, like onions. Yeah. When Lipsa shared that story.
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah.
It from there she opened a pathway and you went down it, not racing, but with deliberation. It was powerful. Listen, I put your face next to Galtown.
Yes.
You did that?
Yeah.
Like,
you did that?
That's the first time I used the spotlight and the whole thing. Your face next to the peace formula and the sun. The sun. Don't play with me. You You don't understand, Margaret Rose, you don't understand what just went on, but I am telling you that you don't feel like you did it, but you fucking did it. You fucking slam it the fucking in the basket. Don't care
Oh
that
my
too.
God. Oh my God. You know what that tells me?
Yes, you were right. Baton passed.
I was right?
Baton passed.
Baton passed. No, baton passed. But you know what that tells me?
What?
Because I nothing happens by chance with me, I find. Maybe I'm this whatever meaning maker. I mean, take meaning out of everything, but maybe I need to quiet myself sometimes and just
be still
and just talk, because I was like, there was no, I promise you, I was like, no,
Delia,
I'm not doing
she
this.
said she feel that.
I didn't feel it. I promise you, I was like,
I felt the prophecy.
Was it prophecy?
Prophecy, right? This the prophecy, you know, of people from all over the world coming together, blah, 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 whatever. Because I don't think, yeah, this was amazing. The way how it came together, and then it was just amazing.
Really?
Yes. You can see this girl, this is a workshop. This is a whole evening, and just like how Adam, you know, we went through the different scenarios.
You all were so amazing, guys. You all are so amazing, and all of you all just we have each other's backs. This was just so amazing. Adam, that script is going to tear down walls and barriers. We need to have it acted out properly.
He did it in like 2 days, like a day.
He just did it. Yeah, and then Alyssa and Delia, all the work on the archetypes or everything that we've been doing since Chauvin put his knee on that man's neck. I was going to say something about that, but then I said, that would go to, because maybe I should have, because then emotionally I might have felt more connected. But you know, I was not emotionally.
Like the guru, the great, you know, you came across measured, you came across thoughtful, like
really,
this is not some fly-by-night shit. You understand? This is something well, you know, researched. You understand?
Really?
And yeah, that's how it came. That, yeah, if that's the new Margaret.
I need to learn this or no? No, this is a tired Margaret, but I need to learn this because no. I need to learn, understand what it is I tapped into there, because I promise you, I usually emotionally connect with the people I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing this just now, I wasn't there, guys. I wasn't there. And usually to me, I'm really powerful when I emotionally connect. At least I think so with people.
Yeah.
Do you think part of that is because there were quite a few cams off? Because it was strange, like Lapsy posted a story in there, which is so powerful. Then 5 minutes later, I forgot she was there.
Right, Lipsa. Yeah.
I think people were joining from where they were, so you don't know like what their physical circumstances are.
Oh yeah, I'm not critical at all.
Yeah.
I was thinking about because this is what I know that would be inappropriate, right? Like, how can I have empathy for my father who is willing to disown me and throw me away? Like, I was wondering where she built the empathy from.
Yeah.
You know, like, where was the angle? Because I tried to, like, where can I get the empathy from? Like, you know, you're supposed to protect me. Like, that's what daddies do.
But when you understand where somebody comes from, and when you understand, because I went through exactly that. That is exactly what I experienced. Let me tell you, Indian racism. I'm looking around the world. Some of the most damaged people are people who have been damaged by Indian racism. It is very, very ugly. It separates parents from their children. Remember, and I told you all, when I had Ruben, There was a healing that took place in me, like a dimensional shift. Before that, I was angry, and I was angry after, don't get me wrong. Before that, I was angry, I was self-destructive, I didn't think I had value. I was looking for love in all the wrong places. That's why I got pregnant at 19. I was a mess. When I had Ruben and looked at that baby, that's when I realized, wait a minute, this baby is perfect and it's not me. But then it made it so clear, because I knew any natural mother would have this connection with her child. And in that moment, I knew it was society. I was like, society is what has separated my mother from her instinctive, and my anger. I got that. I've told you all the story 5 million times. That when I felt that love for Ruben, in that same instant, I felt the anger. And that blew my mind, and it continues to blow my mind today, which is why no matter how many people say anger is bad, I know it is good. It's because from that day, I became angry at society, be calm, and that fueled my work in criminal defense. It fueled my work in anti-corruption. It fueled my work. And so that's why I haven't been crippled by anger, because I have found a way to transform it and put it out into my work, not saying whatever. But yeah, so anyway, all of that to say, I think what she said is whatever, but when you start to really reflect, I knew when my mother had that child, me, all of us, the three of us, she's not a bad person. This person was 17 years old when she started making children with my father, brought up as an Indian, where, Indians hate Africans, and she have these very dark-skinned African-looking children, and, she feels embarrassed, because the family disowned her. Her family stopped talking to her for about a decade. She was left on her own with the African people. So society put her in this position, and she still tried. I mean, she stayed, for 17 years with my father. So yes, you can find the empathy, because you can look at the social structures that have, you see, system is always the answer.
I was wondering
system is always the answer.
But I was wondering what I knew what he was responding to, right? But I was wondering, what is that she connected to? What in him is in his response she had empathy for? Is it that he was so bound by these societal values, customs, norms, this whole thing of the untouchable? That's what I've been reading under T. Roy, and I have been like blown away by caste system in India. It's, we in the Western world, we don't have a grasp of it. It is so mind-blowing.
Hello?
We have a grasp of it.
We have a grasp of it.
We have a grasp of it.
We have a grasp of it. I guess intellectual.
Indians in Trinidad, Delia,
no. Delia, my father's a whole Douglas.
He's a what?
A Douglas. Margaret?
That's what
okay, so I went to a conference one time, and this person was researching speech. So a Douglas is an intersectional or biracial person of Afro and Indo parentage. And she literally, so my father would probably be classified as Douglas, right? So Margaret also would be classified as Douglas. One Afro-Trinidadian, one Indo-Trinidadian parent. This woman from the stage points at me, calls my name, and says, well, Alyssa, well, I mean, you're not a Douglas. Just like
so?
I'm like, I thought he was in a whole linguistics conference, but no, but Delia, when you have Margaret has a lived experience of the caste system in Trinidad. That you feel it, and if you're not connected to it, it just, we could talk about that for 3 hours.
Chanel experience the same thing. My mother said, don't call me mommy. Listen, Chanel's father was a doctor. Used to have Chanel and his brothers running around in the office. People will come and say, who children is this? And the father wouldn't own them.
But okay, I hear you.
Denied his children because they don't look pure Indian. Trust me, it's a nasty, nasty
That is
thing.
so sickening. And this whole thing with even we talk about it with homosexuality, like your child that you make and you love, your child says, you know, mommy, I'm gay, and you cut them off. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and it's society's, it's society's mores, society's norms that, and cultures and narratives that is separating us from each other. And that's why we have to dismantle these systems.
Right.
And we can't do it by just being happy and nice all the time.
Exactly.
I had a friend who was crying to me not long ago, just before I left England, because she's the middle of 3 girls in her family, and she's always been in the middle of every family confrontation, every argument. And she's always been the one trying to peace broker, and it's breaking her health. And she explained to me that she's never told this before, but she said that her elder sister had severe mental health problems, and it got to the point where she tried to commit suicide and luckily failed. And she was bleeding in the home, and her mother wouldn't call the ambulance because she was ashamed and would be worried about whether the paramedics might be somebody she knew. And it feels like that isn't a racial issue, but it's the same system.
Yes.
It's the system that's...
That reminds me of Brené Brown. Shame.
Especially
Shame.
as a parent.
So that's why we really need to, you see this system thinking lens, even sitting in that meeting today, it just drove it home even more that the system thinking lens is the way forward for us. It's how we don't lose ourselves in the blame game.
Right.
It's how we, and we focus on the structural constraints. But I'm not saying not to focus on individual accountability in the system. It's not an either or.
So
And that's what we...
What about this Urtan's point about Mary? Mary,
that's a possibility that Mary could have approached it differently. However, again, that is putting the responsibility for addressing that situation not on the person who is being wrong, right? But I think in a future dispute, not with Mary, not with Haley, I feel like, what's her name? Mary has an opportunity, right? You have a boss that's good. He wants to do the right thing. So you need to up your game now, right? And educate him. Yeah, Adam.
In our breakout room, a couple of things, but on Clive, the boss, Amanda played him. And Amanda was like, I don't really have a preference on which character. And then it just ended up that there was only me and her left to choose. And I thought, well, I've already played Clive, so I'll play Mary and she played Clive. He read Clive completely differently to how I read Clive. She read Clive as like being straight down the line, businessman, matter of fact, says the right things, but really he's only thinking about numbers and with dollar signs in his eyes. And I thought she played him so convincingly. For me, it completely twisted that character. That he didn't want to be right. But in fact, all he was bothered about was profit, even if it came at the expense of
an individual person. Yeah. And then in our room, I was trying to do that, and then Ross said, "Let's just look at the character in terms of what they might be feeling." I was like, and then mine was like, okay.
Oh, that's why I wanted people to step into it, because you see the learning you just got there. That's another way, that's another piece of the elephant, right? But, and for me, I would think.
Yeah, so they kind of shifted, and I didn't want to be like, I want to pause the thing, because I was like, let's just follow the instructions.
You see, this is people, again, who don't want to go through the process.
Right.
Empathy is a process, and it is a practice. It's not up here only.
We should have planned that perhaps better in the breakout rooms, that when we go in the breakout rooms, we decide, like we take over and we don't you know, like a kind of benevolent.
And you ensure that it happens. You ensure that it happens.
So that's great, because you see then the difference between people going through the process and not going through the process.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, because Amanda said something like something shifted for her. Then Amanda.
Yeah. And
So
Haley by Debbie, and she played so well, like the emotion. She felt emotion, you know, and it really came across. And for me as well, even though I wrote the bloody thing, it was the first time that I'd actually emotionally empathized with Mary at such a deep level. When I was reading that part, I felt, you could feel the emotion reaching here.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And then couldn't come out.
We missed that in our little group. We missed that.
Because I was thinking, if it were me, if I were in her shoes, I would have just laid it all out and said, to hell with it, screw you. But I could feel that.
And trying to be cool and trying, you know, and this is what we get. And
I wrote the thing. So that shows, you know, it's really powerful to go through that process of stepping into the shoes of
the
other character. It's a shame the other group didn't do it, but that's learning for us.
That's learning. We should unpack.
Yeah, in terms of that, my speech, when I talked about the HBA axis, right? The body's natural stress response system. So imagine you have to constantly navigate these spaces. Poor Mary. You understand? All these hormones releasing, stressing and trying to relax, and constantly. So then you have, you know, the abnormality kicks in. And then, of course, it presents with diabetes, hypertension, because she's constantly under stress. And our stress system is for short-term stress. The body is not for long-term chronic stress, right? So this is what happens constantly. So now, you know, she's like even when in a conversation with Clyde, she's like, yes, but you have like 100 people here and I'm the only person. That's a stressor that she has to be constantly navigating, you know?
Yes, I have lived it for the last 10 years. No, really, no, guys, really. And I didn't know that I lacked a sense of belonging. I didn't know. I was suffering from that stress, but I didn't know.
Do you mean the lack of belonging from after having arrived in the UK, or
in the UK here? Nah, here. But because I don't have a deep feeling of that from before, really, I didn't recognize it. But you saw it in my behavior. Every time I met a Black person in Bath, they became my best friend. Come! Oh my God! I was a mess. Wow. And until one day in 2019, you know, when I started to really come to grips with stuff that was going on in me, it was Jackson's birthday party, and these 3 sets of Black people there with their families, and I'm looking at them, and I'm saying, why are they here? The only reason they're here is because they're Black. And I needed them because they're Black. I said, would I have befriended these people ordinarily? Is that my tribe or anything? Not really. But because they were Black, I brought them in, and it's been tough because I'm here. I hardly sing anymore because you know me, I am a singer. It's what I do. But I come here, everybody laughs at my taste in music. Oh God, Margaret like gospel, ha ha ha. Oh God, Margaret like Whitney and Mariah, pop 40, da 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 da. You know, I'm this whatever. But they like all these 60s music and, you know, all the rock people and da da da. And every night of my life, that's what plays. And it's always like, so I said, can I play a song now? No. Ha. And it's like a big joke with everybody. No. Don't let Margaret have that. And yes, it's all a big joke, but trust me, guys, I've been living this.
That is the persistent stressor, you know?
Yeah, it's been tough.
Because you have to adjust. Your body reacts to that, right? Yeah. Even unconsciously, there's a reaction.
To all of them. I remember once, one of them brought their dog, and it was a big dog like this. And then the dog came and jumped on me. And I was like, ah! And I, you know, ran in the opposite direction. And here the guy, oh my God, she's so aggressive. Me.
What?
Yeah.
You didn't say get the fuck out my
He
house.
turned to Andrew. Oh my God, she's so aggressive.
That's the time you just say get the fuck out.
No, but he wasn't saying it. No, this is a guy who I know and I love, I promise you. But I am characterized because I talk like this. I'm very expressive. This is who I am, right? I have all this energy. It's what Black people are. This is how we are, right?
Wow.
And so I'm
aggressive in flight. Wow.
The dog jumps up on me.
You, and she's so aggressive. That's a beautiful story.
And it's those kinds of, but it's those kinds of situations I've been in, but I have always, tears are coming to my eyes, but I have always been, you know, the strong person, the powerful person. And so I didn't even understand. So I never reacted. When these things are happening to me, I don't react like a victim. I don't react like, oh, you hurt my feelings, because, you know, I have this persona of strength. And a lot of the time I didn't understand that I was hurting. I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would feel and I just roll my eyes and go into my armor.
Strong woman.
Whatever. Yeah. And it just broke. When Daniel died for me, it just broke. I just didn't have the resilience, the strength to do it anymore. And that has been a whole unpacking, which has led to this conception of the radical empathy method. And really trying to unpack this question: what is the responsibility of different players in the system? Because if Andrew is my husband who pledged to love and adore me for the rest of my life, right? And you are there to love me, and you are part of this system, and you have a wife who's been traumatized because the mother didn't like she because she was too Black, and there are all these embodied, that's embodied trauma, right? Embodied trauma about the hair. My mother cut off my hair when I was 11 years old before I came into Bishop's, cut it all off. I had hair down to the middle of my back. It never grew back again. Never grow back to that length again because she couldn't handle it and all this sort of thing. Never liked the hair. Always want me to straighten it and all this kind of thing. And this guy, and I did the work to love myself and love my hair, and I love my hair, and people used to love my hair and all of that. And I come here in this marriage, and it's the exact same thing that my mother would say: I prefer your hair straight. And no matter how I explain to him, Andrew, I hear you on that, but maybe it's because how you're socialized to think that this is what beauty is, and this is the package that it comes in. But the truth is, this is who I am. And maybe you could try to see, when I feel to cry, my beauty. Because you chose to be the person who is my husband. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I didn't seek this man out. This man chased me down for months. I'm like, what's wrong with you? I wasn't attracted to any short, skinny white man. I wasn't. No offense, Adam. My boyfriend from before was 6'5", Rasta, with Rasta down to the back of his thighs, from Jamaica.
Yeah,
man, that.
Right.
You understand? You know, but he machinated, did everything in his power to get me into his life. And that's why for many years I had a bit of a resentment, you know, with the career, the money. Anyway, moving on. Why are we going into all this? But all of that to say, I promise you, this radical empathy thing is not something I am trying to do to make money or anything like that. Of course, I'm a commercial human being only because I feel power in this system goes where the money is. And I feel, I mean, I was able to do it before. So why should I now be somebody who doesn't create financial power? for myself through my business. So that's the reason why I pursue it in this commercial way, because I feel it is our right. You see, the four of us in this room here, we're trying to do good in the world. We should be the ones making money in the world. That's dismantling the system, that we're not going around begging for handouts. You know,
yeah. I was thinking about that. I think that's a real fallacy that a lot of people doing the work have bought into. So it allows the money to remain in the hands of people who have no interest in changing the system. Actually, they have an interest in keeping the system as it is or making it more beneficial to them. So, I mean, if you're doing good in the world, why would you not make money?
Yeah,
so that you could do more good in the world instead of waiting on someone who is doing something that is not good in the world to assuage their whatever by giving you money to do something good in the world, and you telling yourself that money is evil, and then you leave the money. And it just like this morning I was thinking about like, no. It's because it's a you know, so the system propagates itself in that way, because even the people doing good in the world have bought into that idea of that is how the wealth is supposed to be distributed. And then you want to divorce yourself, you know, I want to live without money.
I'm a not-for-profit. I'm not trying to make profit because profit is so bad.
That one of the things of the system is it lies. This alternative system, the way it functions, is not based on truth, right? So that is one of the ways that we know this system is operating. When we see a lie functioning as a truth, right? That's one of the indicators, okay, system at play here, doing this thing. By the way, what do you think about my new glasses?
Gorgeous.
Fire.
When you came
in the room, it was the first thing I noticed.
Me too. And the makeup was on point, and I said, "Oh, she's looking nice tonight."
Come on for them.
And I'm like, oh, I just got them in the mail last, and I was like, yes, kind of executive.
It's kind of like Oprah has some interesting ones as well, I know.
Yeah, I love
how I talking to you all, and I have energy now. I don't know. I couldn't wait for this thing to be over. That lab, it felt
we still have to
like
have
a struggle.
from the lab and from the different. Maybe we could go like in our own sessions, like look at the preacher, see what we could pull out.
Because there was so much more I wanted to say, but I just didn't have the energy about that preacher. I wanted to bring that in on the right. What's the next right step? It was too much.
This is a workshop. It's a full workshop.
I think it's 3 days. And I think, I mean, yeah, you wasn't feeling it, but I don't know that you've been more powerful, you know. I would wager.
No.
I'm telling you. No, you mightn't like to hear it, but
because that would be crazy. I would have to do a real reassessment.
No, but how long have you been getting the word to be still? How long?
But
I personally think that different events call for a
different
but different energy level. I think
system empathy. Oh God, I didn't even say that today.
You couldn't say it, Margaret. That's a whole teaching, so you're not getting into that. This is where I thought you would have said, but anyway, yeah.
No, Alyssa was amazing. You all don't know, Alyssa was coaching me behind, you know. Alyssa says, Margaret, because that's when you all went out, I stayed back in the room with Alyssa, and I said, Alyssa, I really don't know what happening next, you know, because I just do not have the energy for this. And she goes, here, what? Just go through the thing, try not to sell. She said exactly that. Don't sell. You're not selling anything. You know, the commercial part of me. Now this.
It's not even the commercial, you know. That cell is the headset that you go into convincing the jury. That is the winning the case. That's what I mean. It's not a physical cell. It's when you switch into connecting with the jury. and
persuade,
pulling them.
trying to persuade, yeah.
But yeah, but I'm telling you, listen, maybe you had to be that tired. Maybe you had to be that tired, but you tapped into something that
I don't usually tap into.
I tell you.
For real. I
I
tapped into something I do not usually
What I
tap
hear
into.
Alyssa saying is that normally you would do a call to action, but this was like a call to think. Think about the system, where you are in the system, how you play into the system. You know, think about the tools that you probably connected to this week and how you can use these tools to be more effective in flowing forward or something, as he was, that's the word. You know,
feed forward. Alyssa
feed
corrected
forward.
me yesterday or the day before.
How you can utilize these tools to feed forward in the system.
As learn quick, you know, Alyssa.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, like, you know, how to, I thought this was amazing, and but, you know, I was thinking about, because this is this dream that I have with Margaret, that we would put this training together and go to these corporations and make lots of money.
Do it.
I'm coming to England because Milady said that there's lots of money in these practices. What? Oh my God. Restorative
diversity and restorative practices.
Yeah, there's like 45 million or whatever in every little precinct. So you need to do a proposition for Bath and run down there and say, let me tell you guys how to be. Okay.
Let's do it, but let's us here, this 4. Let's do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we're meeting next Friday.
This Friday, need a break. You don't think you need a break?
Oh, today's Tuesday?
Yeah.
Well, let's touch in with each other on Thursday and see how we all feel. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
How was that? Because I mean, Adam, I know Adam has a 10-hour drive when in the morning.
Really? Shit, Adam.
It's all right. I'm the passenger.
Ah.
Okay, you just get to pass snacks and look cute.
Yeah. Well, the first bit.
Yeah.
Aw. And we seem to be living the life.
Of that different kind of level of energy, my sense is that all of those people in the room, maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, would join us if invited to join our lab.
Yeah.
So that's something I was thinking we could think about in our next call together. Because we've talked about that before, haven't we? Inviting new people in.
True.
And there was if you think like Amanda and Lakita as well, who I've really enjoyed the input of over the last 5 days, you know, maybe Debbie too, and Roz, you know, and Lipsa. I think if Lips were part of our group, she'd bring a whole new perspective.
Yeah, because let me tell you, Lipsa, I met her in a breakout one-on-one. Do you know what her goal is? And she's very express about it. She is going to be a politician in India. She's going into politics. She is preparing herself for politics. She's very express about it. So this is not something
she said that. No, she
some
said that.
hidden desire. And she said it openly as well. But
yeah, but she said it openly also.
She was very, she said it openly. Oh, yeah, I heard her say it to everybody, but I said privately. She went there with me, and I'm looking at this girl. She's powerful. She's articulate. She's intelligent. She's not a lawyer. Or is she a lawyer? She works right now with a company in the field of social impact, but has a master's degree and everything. She's working in an Indian startup that makes a lot of money, and now but it's a social enterprise startup, which is about recruiting and giving people jobs and all of that. There's huge opportunity in India for stuff like that. Anything that giving people, connecting people with jobs and all of that, and corporations looking for that, you know, I mean, there's so many people. So, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm so grateful for you all. I could not have done this now without you. I am so excited that we started co-creating this year.
Yeah.
I am. It's incredible. It's incredible.
And it fell into, well, yeah. And you see, we didn't really have to surface the archetypal responses too much. Because I think people...
But we knew you were not going to, so, you know.
No, because I think we box out. Yeah, I think that is for our analytical use. You know.
I like where it was put. I like where it was put because Adam did state it explicitly at the start.
Well.
Yeah. So I think really that planting that seed, because afterwards the emotion would have flowed over people. So now when you come back to archetypes, you'll say, oh yeah, I remember you saying that before you get all tied up, you know, in the role play and all kind of things. So I think it was, you know, good job.
I feel like even though you use that as the base, the characters in the play, they seemed like real people. You know, they weren't caricatures almost.
Yeah, he did. Adam did a great job, and we cannot underestimate that, you know, because it's the empathy that Adam has that he brought in each character. Like,
really strange because I've not felt like that in a long time, if ever, where it just flowed.
Wow.
I sat there for 2 hours like, what have I committed myself to? I have no idea where to start. Absolutely no idea. And then I don't even know, I can't even remember how the first seed was planted in terms of, I think it was the workplace. I think I decided, because I wanted it to be relatable. So I didn't want it to be too niche, too specific. A workplace sales, you know, even if nobody's worked in that environment, we're familiar enough with those kinds of environments. And you'll note as well that I didn't put a location on the thing. So I didn't want people to think, oh, it's an American thing, oh, it's a British thing, or anything like that. It was deliberately vague. Of course, there is a little bit of geographic centering on the white Western world because it's mentioned about it's a white middle class area predominantly. But I think that's
it was the crest sandwich for me. It was the sandwich for me. I was like, a hot and what sandwich? What?
Is that a British thing?
Yes. Like that is not no. like where is the cheese in that sandwich? I mean, you know, come on.
Yeah, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. We could package this, do a training. I could just see all the different responses.
I already spoke to Rob and Leslie about. Yeah, they're all in. Rob and Leslie have just come back in. They're the most. It's been amazing being here with them. They've had my back. I hope I've had theirs, and it's been incredible. They're
just
beautiful.
How would it be? Because I was just thinking, like you said, about making the video, and I was thinking about Amanda playing Clive. Because I thought, in the video, it would be cool if I played Clive. But then I've seen Amanda play Clive, and then I've just thought, what would it be like if a person of colour played Clive and had those thoughts because they themselves are in the system?
Because then we understand that the systems of oppression, right? It goes beyond the color. The color is what we see initially and we decide whatever, right? Because you could be a Black person and hold the values that support the system.
Yeah, we could do that. You want to know why we could do that? Because Marian already is there as an archetype that
white person power.
Yeah.
Power.
Yeah. So there's a white person holding power, but then the flip would be
I think yes, but
yeah.
I think in terms of training, that might be one step too many. I see where it could be powerful, but remember you have Yolanda's part.
Lila.
You know, so that person, Lila. So Lila doesn't have power, but I think that that is doable, but I think with Clive as a white person, it's more powerful. The whole thing holds together better because then you have I think we just got some
critique. We just got some critique from Listen.
Carry on, Alyssa.
Yeah. Sorry.
Relatable?
Sorry, go ahead.
Not that it's more relatable. It becomes I think that that adds additional complexity to the system. And as a you know, when sometimes when you're using when you're making a formula or you're making an example, you have to kind of
make it
so you're not past the point of where it holds together. But I think for as an example, that is a layer of complexity. Leslie's dancing.
We done. We done. Sorry. Yes, I'm finished.
Finish, Jackson.
We're finished, Jackson. We're done.